Now, before I bring our next speaker on stage, I just remembered an exciting update. If you won a trivia question earlier, raise your hand. Where are my winners? All right, so Rich from Midtown has another prize for you for winning the trivia question. And fortunately, we actually had an opening here on the back table, so we have this gorgeous display of a lot of incredible glass work that Rich has brought. So if you're a trivia prize winner, go see the booth. They've got something special for you all. And Rich, thank you so much for donating extra prizes. Thanks, guys. So next up, I would like to invite Rich Johnson to stage, and of course he is the owner of Midtown Direct. Now this is a guy who built and tested his first bong when I was learning to walk in 1982. So this gentleman definitely knows glass. We're really excited to have him here today from Midtown, and let's bring him up on stage. Rich?
So I've got a whole bunch of things to talk about, but what I'm most interested in doing is answering any questions that anyone has about glass. So I've got a whole spiel to give somewhere here, but let's start with the question and answers at the beginning.
Question.
And that way I can tailor what I'm saying to what you guys want to hear. Nah, we're good. So anybody have any questions about glass? Like if you could ask anybody anything about glass, here's your opportunity. And I have the pleasure of bringing Bob Batram up on stage with me. Bob is an internationally acclaimed glassblower, right on the floor. And Bob's style is totally unique. He's known for Sherlock-style pipes with his own millies in there, which are, a millie is a marble with an image in it. And so he'll do like a whole bunch of fish on a pipe. He'll do like cactuses and animals and just create this incredible theme on a pipe. And it's
mix I learned from Snodgrass.
Bob's kind of master. He is the apprentice of Bob Snodgrass, like so many other people in Eugene. And Bob, I think, has exemplified what a person can do with some Snodgrass knowledge and that inspiration from The Godfather, and then turning it into his own thing. And I think a lot of apprentices kind of like stick in the Bob Snodgrass style, but Bob has elevated that into his own style. So I promise you there's not a question that anyone can ask here that either I or Bob cannot answer. So there's your challenge. So I've been asking people around town, if you could ask glass experts any question, what would it be? And I've got a lot of like good questions, I think, so let's start there. And I also want to mention that I'm a salesperson, I'm not a glass blower. I'm a glass expert because I've sold 100,000 bongs in my life. Yes, thank you. Bob has made 100,000 bongs in his life, okay? These are different things. And yeah, if you look at us, yes, we did arm 250,000 people with what they needed to get really stoned. And yes, and we are proud of that. I promise. So one of the great questions I got today is, how do you deal with glass blowers? I thought that was great.
Give them money.
You give them money. That's awesome. Yeah, so glass in Eugene, I think, is a totally different scene than anywhere else in the world. Eugene has more glass blowers per capita, I think, than anywhere. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason for that is, in my mind, from the knowledge that I have in 25 years here of glass, is in Eugene, the philosophy all along has been glass blowers teach glass blowers with nothing other than the hope for elevation for the entire movement. And that's pretty freaking special. I can't think of another industry in America where people look out for each other and help each other learn skills like that. There's no industry that has created itself through its own self-knowledge and through its own generosity.
That comes from Snodgrass.
And Bob points out eloquently, that is all Bob Snodgrass. So Bob Snodgrass back in the day, like everybody talks about the godfather of glass, but what is that? To me, in the day, that's a guy in a trailer in Glenwood, and he would build you a pipe if you got him stoned. And that's where it was in the day. And there was no hope for an industry. There was no hope for anything other than to give a friend a ritual object for them to have a better way to smoke out of. What more noble of a cause? And that's why Bob is Bob. Bob Snodgrass is the godfather because he didn't say, hey, give me $10, give me $20 and I'll show you how this works. He was like, hey, sit by my side and learn from me. And I really want everybody to recognize that. And that's what's made Bob who he is. That's what made all of the glass industry what it is, because Bob gave, because Bob didn't want. Huge difference. So to me, Bob Snodgrass, he's the godfather of glass, but he's also the person who introduced gold and silver into a ritual object that we use to smoke Mother Nature. That's a big effing deal. Gold and silver in ritual objects, that goes back way beyond Egyptian days, right? Anything with gold and silver in it is by default a ritual object. So like this thing here, like that's all gold and silver in there that made that look like that. And that's what color changing glass is. Anything with gold and silver in it, when you put it on a black background, it looks more
Transparent silver.
It looks more blue and green.
Transparent silver is yellow, and with a black background, it turns blue. Transparent silver is yellow-ish, and then when you have a black background, the resin, it turns blue.
So that's where the term color changing glass came from. And that's huge.
And gold starts off pink, it's transparent, and then it turns green with a black background.
Yeah, so the gold looks more green with the black background. So the pipe looks one way, you smoke through it, you get it black, resonate it, and it looks different. And it appears to be changing color the whole time. And back in the day, like the original, the origination of Bob Snodgrass, Dan Keeling in the Grateful Dead parking lots, with that unbreakable glass idea, where that came from is to sell these pieces, to get them out into the public. They would go to the Dead shows, Bob would be there in his trailer blowing glass, and they'd take the finished product and they'd throw it down the shakedown street, and it'd go ding, 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 and everybody would hear it, everybody would see it, and everybody would see that it was still intact. So that's where that kind of notion of unbreakable glass came from, because it really did hold together. So there's a lot of like awesome apprentices for Bob Snodgrass in town who do this kind of classic skull with a top hat. If this thing were made by Bob Snodgrass, it'd be worth $1,000. Because it's made by an apprentice, I sell these things for $40. So you got to kind of know what you're buying. You got to have some trust in the store you're buying from. The beautiful thing to me is this is one of those few things that China can't knock off, that you can't find this skill set to build this thing. China's got this thing down. Like the Chinese can do this probably better than we can do it in our garages in Eugene. And that's that. But this kind of thing, nobody can touch it. And that's what makes me so proud as a business owner, to work with guys like this, that we can sell this that nobody else in the world can even touch. So let's talk about Operation Pipe Dreams. it seems really relevant to me right now with Sessions as our Attorney General. My reality is I was working for a glass guy. We had a couple of really cool internet sites up. One day I got a call from a guy, 7 o'clock in the morning. He said he was from the DEA. And he said, "We've got your boy in jail. We didn't shoot his dog. We want you to come down and open up that store so we can go seize all of the assets that are in there." I was the manager at the time. Does anybody want to hear this story, or is this just... Okay. So the real Operation Pipe Dreams, all right? So we were in the same shop that I'm in right now, and it was called Higher Source, and I worked for a guy named Jason and Saeed, and they were Jerome Baker Designs. Does everybody know who that is? All right. So JBD, they shipped a UPS truck of glass out of town every single day. A giant truck going, they were like one of maybe like 2 wholesalers in the United States, maybe 4 wholesalers in the United States who are supplying every head shop with the industrialized water pipe version of that color changing glass that was found in that Grateful Dead parking lot by my buddy. We all came out here together from Boston thinking, we got to figure out where that glass comes from, how it's made, and we need to get it in the hands of every college kid in the world. Mission, like noble mission. What more noble of a mission to go figure out where bongs come from, mark, and build the bongs, and sell the bongs, and distribute the bongs. So he did it. He did it to it. He figured it all out. They were shipping 25 grand a day out of this little place in Eugene. They were supplying every head shop in America. This woman in Philadelphia, who is the Assistant Attorney General of the United States, Mary Beth, I can't even say her name. She had to drive by a head shop every day on her way to work, and she hated it. And she got the state to bust it, and they figured out all the glass in that head shop came from Jerome Baker Designs. She got this massive hard-on for Jerome Baker Designs. She worked with the DEA, the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Postal Service, all of these people. And that was the same time that it was called Operation Pipe Dreams, right? So what made them really mad was we got really good on the internet. And so we started selling bongs on the internet. And that scared the shit out of them because they thought we were going to sell to their kids and that their kids were going to have bongs. And that's what was the impetus behind the government crackdown. It wasn't because we were knowingly saying we were selling it for this or that. It wasn't that. It was the fury of the existence of this one stupid shop in Pennsylvania. That's what led. So they set us all up. So I operated 2 of these websites that the Associated Press credited as top 10 in the world at delivering bongs. Thank you very much. And it was gratifying to see our name in lights that day when the bust came, Ghetto Web and Smoke Lab in the top 10 there. And it was kind of like, yeah, like the world recognizes us as the bong lords. And we got free lighters if anybody wants to grab a lighter, by the way. So we were selling bongs, and we were selling a lot of bongs, and the shop was full of bongs. And so I got that call in the morning, and they're like, "You're the bong guy, come and open the store for us." And so I said, "Okay, I'll come and open the store." And they're like, "What direction are you coming from, and what vehicle are you driving?" And I'm like, "I drive a red truck, and I'm going to come down the one-way street." And they're like, "Okay." And then so I get in my truck, and I go down the one-way street, and I pull over. And they all got the place has got the yellow tape around it, caution, do not enter. And there's guys with guns, and they all got these yellow shirts, and they either say DEA or FBI or U.S. Postal. And you know me, I'm thinking, how am I going to get one of them jackets? Because they look good. And so they're like, yeah, key us in there. We're going to go in there and we're going to take over. And I'm like, okay. And I take my key out and I look around and this dude has a gun right behind my head with his finger on the trigger. And I don't know shit about guns, but I know you don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot somebody. And I'm like, no, I'm not your entry guy. You guys didn't even search me. And then they take me, and then they search me. And I'm like, no, you guys go in first. So this dude opens the door, takes his pistol with his finger on the trigger, and busts the camera with the butt of the gun. Like, I was terrified. Like, that was one of the scariest, most dipshit things I ever saw in my whole life. So they brought a roll of bubble wrap like this big and a thing of Scotch tape, and we had like 130 motherships. They're like this big around, and they figured out real quick that they weren't going to wrap all that up at one time. So the one dude gets on the phone and he calls for a U-Haul truck and 15 dudes from the mission and like all these rolls of bubble wrap, and they finally got it taken care of like that. Got all the evidence out. So I got caught. The only thing I ever tried to steal in my life was trying to steal a bong for my owners because I knew that they loved this Big Tom little bong. And I tried to get it up my sleeve. And the DEA, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshals saw me do it. And they told me to get the F out. So that was the bust day. So the day after the bust, it was incredible. I took over the shop, and everybody came in from the community, and they're like, this is a bunch of BS, and we want to support you, and we want to make this a glass shop again, and we think that that was not cool of the federal government. What can we do to support you? And I'm like, hey, buy something that's left. Like, buy a T-shirt, buy some incense, something. And within a week, we were banging glass again, and I haven't missed one day in a row for more than 4,600 days since then. So that's how I got my start. Guys like Bob, guys like Mark, who just dropped in, these guys have led a cultural movement that is so strong and so intellectually recognized that the Smithsonian bought a bunch of that glass at that time and has it in their basement. Yeah. So all of that glass that got busted then, the government is still warehousing as evidence in a place that they have to control the heat, and all that glass is still there, and it's still evidence. And my boss had to sit in the chair where every person on the East Coast has ever been electrocuted while they read him all of the shit that he was going to have to face. So I really hope that this doesn't come across as bragging. I'm trying to impart that glass is and always has been counterculture. When we started, everything was kind of artsy, and the idea was you could lay it, or you could carry it and use it, and nobody would know it was a pipe. It's a pipe. You can smoke out of it, and that's this movement that has created this awesome art form that has gone from, like, that's the original banger. It is a piece of glass with a titanium ugly little thing underneath it that you're supposed to heat up and put your concentrate on, and good heavens, I mean, we went from that to nails and domes and now to bangers in like 5 years. Like, this is incredible. So, like, these things, when you guys see these classic designs in this fumed thing, just recognize the love, and that it's really a religion that turned into an industry, right? And that's what I love about my job, is that when people come in to buy a piece, I recognize that that's a ritual object for them. Like, they're going to use that time and time again, like to make their sacrifice of Mother Nature, to elevate themselves, to get themselves in their zone. And man, it's taken a lot of work from these guys. And the thing that I love about these guys is that their brain is so into what they're doing in their art form. My experience is most glassblowers really suck at math. Their brain is in a different place, and they're always creating. And if you check out what's your Instagram?
Bob Battram, Stagram, _Stagram.
Yeah, Bob Battram _Instagram. Stagram.
Yeah.
So you can watch the evolution of his glass just in the last year. Like, it's incredible. And that's what is the
last
push.
month.
In the last month. Yeah. Yeah, it changes that fast. And we have to. We have to reinvent ourselves every couple of months. So
look for trends and what works and doesn't, and what sells and doesn't.
yeah. And there's direct feedback there between Bob and I as, okay, you came out with a product, and then I can say, yes, it sells, or no, it doesn't sell. And then he's back to the grind of, okay, well, what's going to sell? What's the next cool thing? And then he brings it in. I'm like, wow, dude, I don't even know how to price that thing. I've never seen anything like it. Like, wow. Any questions from anybody? Okay, cool. I'm going to keep going if it's cool. So the last presenter was super awesome, and I love the talk about temperatures and that kind of science. And I want everybody to know that you can buy a device, and it'll infrared digitally tell you the temperature of your banger, so it's never in question. So, like, cool stuff at the head shop.
Temperature is the most important thing when you're doing dabs. If it's too hot, you'll get an anxiety attack. I get anxiety attacks if they're too hot. I'll start thinking about everything's wrong. That's the way it works. So low temp is the way to go.
So the mention of dab straws before, I just wanted to point those out. So these are really cool because you can just put a little micro torch, and you don't need to get it red hot, just hot enough to vape. And there's a couple of constrictors in there so the oil doesn't just shoot in your mouth. And I also want to point out that there's really cool ways to diffuse your water pipes now. So you can take an older water pipe and come on in to Midtown, bring it dirty, I don't care. Call it a bong, I don't care. And put in a new diffuser piece and get more bubbles, more smoke to water contact. And that's generally what we're shooting for in bong science these days, right? So I call it more bubbles, more fun.
Every time you divide a bubble in half, there's 66% more surface area touching the water. So every time the bubble touches, the smoke touches water, it gets rid of the non-water soluble stuff in the smoke.
So I want to just show off a couple of pieces that Bob has made here. Classic banger hanger style now. Just fully functional, ready to dab. It's got a 10.5 millimeter sleeve in there. And that size just lends itself to these mini pieces. It seems to work great. This is a brand new technique. Can you tell us about this, Bob?
The technique is wig-wag, but I've done something to it before. I twist it back and forth to make it look like it's painted on there with a brush. It has all these little lines in it, and it's kind of something new that I've discovered.
So yeah, that's one of those.
I actually learned from a fellow Snodgrass apprentice that he's been doing for years, and I kind of extracted his technique and put it in and focused on that part.
Cool. And then can you tell us about this?
That's sleeved gold. Like, I've done artwork and then put gold over the top of all the artwork and then put a clear sleeve over it to trap the gold, because when you go melt it in or shape it, the gold will vaporize off and you'll lose all your gold. So I covered it up with clear before I shaped it, and that's the result. And you get this shiny sheen that's transparent, so you can see the colors underneath the gold, and certain colors change the color of the gold. You'll get like a dark green, or if it's white, it'll be pink. If it's black, it'll be almost gold.
Where does the gold come from?
I buy gold coins that are $9.99 and put it in flame and vaporize it right onto the glass and give it a coating. And then you can trap it. That's how I learned. I learned from Bob how to trap the gold by putting clear rods over the top of it and patterns or drawings or whatever, and then twisting it up and doing more patterns over that pattern.
Any questions? I'm probably over my time, I'm guessing. No questions?
I'm curious, what was that first bong made out of? No, your first bong in 1982.
Oh, my first bong in 1982. Oh, yeah, thank you for that. So, me and my friends in 6th grade, yeah, that was 1982. We were infatuated with the function and the look of bongs. And so we started with a glass jar with a metal lid, put a mouthpiece in it that was made out of vinyl hose, and figured out how far we needed to get the downstem to make bubbles. We didn't know that bongs were made for pot, so we smoked Kleenex to test how the smoke would go through the bong. And it was about 2 years later that we realized that there was marijuana on the planet, and that maybe that would taste better than our Kleenex. So, you gotta love bong life. I mean,
Oh, please describe the high from Kleenex.
but my parents never caught on. They just thought that we were like burning newspaper down there or something. I don't know. Troublemakers. Yep.
If your pipe cracked, is it practical to have it repaired? If your glass pipe cracked, is it practical or any point to having it repaired, or should it just be replaced?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, if your pipe cracks, is it practical to repair or just replace? So that's a money thing. If you got a piece that's worth a couple hundy, then hell yeah. And what I would suggest is utilizing the local resources. There's two of them. There's Cornerstone, that's a head shop, and there's Sweet Tooth, that's out on West 11th. And both of those places will evaluate your piece, and they'll give you an estimate on how much it'll cost to get it back on its feet. And in my experience, what I do is I'll look at the piece and I'll look at the crack, and if it's something where some glass could come off of it, hell no, I'm not going to use it. It needs to be repaired. But if it's just a crack, I'll put a piece of duct tape on it and use it for the next couple of years.
I only repair my own work.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the general rule of thumb is if it's cracked, throw it away.
So this is more of a comment than a question. I'm Bethany from OG Analytical. Thank you for being here, Rich.
Yeah.
My mom was diagnosed with MS about 3 years ago, and I turned her on to using cannabis medicinally, and she'd never touched a bong before in her life. Yeah. And I took her into Midtown to go shopping for her first bong, and I don't know the name of the gal that helped us out, but she was awesome. She actually gave my mom a little demonstration. She put a little bit of water in the bong and showed her how it worked. Yeah. And that was such a good experience for her. So thank you for that. You've got a good team.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what I love about Oregon right now is we've got these incredible people with these incredible businesses that are here to just share their love, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Thank you.
That was an incredible presentation, Rich. It was really important that you were here for us tonight as such a benchmark in the glass industry here for Eugene.